And we are back for another episode of the Post Republic. It is October 15th, 2025. I'm Adrian here with Silas, Steve, and Tyler.
Yo.
And Tyler's got that rundown for us.
Oh, yeah. It's been a fun week. We got Trump was able to get Hamas to release the final hostages, and Trump is also claiming that the war is over. It is over. We have the government is still shut down. What is it? The third week. We have some leaked texts from alleged young Republicans. And I guess they were making some untoward jokes. Ex-employees are clearly biased against Christians and flagging them as bots. We have the teens who assaulted Big Ballz in Washington, D.C., they all avoid jail time and apparently are just facing probation. Drone strikes against Venezuelan narcoterrorists. We have a new No Kings protest on the 18th coming up, so that'll be fun. Hegseth restricts press access to the Pentagon. Interesting. Minnesota election officials confirm that illegal aliens can vote in state elections using driver's licenses. And the Vatican has built a Muslim prayer room inside the Apostolic Library. And our final story is the UN is trying to impose a global carbon tax, and the White House is fighting against it. Now, I haven't been paying attention as much as I usually do, so please give me the facts. Whoever wants to take a story. I'm kind of curious about this whole leaked text thing. I heard a couple details, and it seems like this is the biggest story, so if you want to take it away, Adrian.
Yeah, so there was a text, the Young Republicans group, basically, I think they're congressional staffers. I could be wrong, or just people that work within the Republican Party. Young guys having like a group text where you're just joking around. They mentioned positive things about Hitler, but it was in a joking context. Same with the gas chambers. Just being edgy, because that's a lot of young men. And it's the Overton window has shifted a lot in a lot of ways, but it's just like anti-political correctness, like, shooting the shit with guys, just having fun, right? It comes out, Political releases it, coincidentally, I think on Charlie Kirk's birthday, if I'm right.
Of course.
Torpedo, and kind of to run, as we were talking pre-show, to run cover for Jay Jones' fiasco, where he literally said, I'll say this again because the media hasn't really covered it much, that he wanted to see Republicans' children die in front of them. And that's being equated almost on that level, but it's trying to take that energy away from that story to some extent. But there's another angle to it as well. But you go ahead, Steve.
I was just going to say, Jay Jones also said that he wanted to piss on graves. If he outlived them, he would go piss on their graves. It's definitely a purposeful avoidance of that story, but I yield back to you, Adrian.
Well, yeah, so the second part of that story really that then blew up even more was the weak response of so many young Republicans Party people, and then just Republicans in general, who were like, oh, this is the worst thing that's ever been said by anyone, and they should be condemned and thrown away. And it goes back to a quote that I've brought up, where the left will promote and, advocate for their radicals, like Jay Jones. Nobody has called for him to step down in the Democratic Party, as far as I'm aware, including the governor candidate. And on the flip side, the right shuns its radicals. And this wasn't even that radical. It's just dudes like being edgy in a group chat, whatever. But have we learned nothing from the woke era? You don't apologize for shit that's not genuinely worth apologizing for. If there was a Republican who said what Jay Jones said, yeah, that's a different story. And I would want that, like, no, that guy shouldn't fucking be running for office. generally, like children. We're not even talking like, I still think you shouldn't be saying that about your opponent, but the children. It's actually absolutely abhorrent. But that's not the same thing. This is not what this is. It's the old cancel culture thing, and they go ahead and they apologize and they cuck to it essentially. And I give JD Vance a lot of credit. He responded to it and said, basically, I can try to find the tweet, but he was pretty much saying like, this isn't worth this level of condemnation about it. It's like guys being stupid in a group chat. Like that's basically the end of the story. So for you to respond, the Republicans who cuck to it is embarrassing. Truly. I mean, seriously, have you learned nothing? This is a playbook. You don't just step into it. And if you apologize, it does nothing.
So are people apologizing though?
Yeah,
I didn't see that part of the story.
A lot of the young Republican chapters, which is it's probably a dying organization because of Turning Point USA, but it's been around for a while. And is
that the same as YAF?
No, that's different.
Okay.
I want to say Young Republicans is its own thing.
Okay.
But it's like, how many times when a politician or a celebrity is caught up in this cancel culture shit and they apologize and literally it does nothing. It's just like it's a humiliation ritual. There's a word for it within a struggle session. It's to get you to comply with their version of reality. And when you do that, they don't say, oh, you know what? Okay. Yeah, maybe. Like it does nothing. Yeah. I remember the Mumford & Sons guy apologized for having the Antifa book, and he still had to end up leaving the band. So
how fucked up is that they kicked him out of the band?
Yeah, I think. Well, maybe.
What
yeah,
a bunch of
I think they
pussies,
did. Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah. Well, I've always hated Mumford & Sons. Let's be honest. I can't stand that music. But
yeah.
It's 2025. This isn't like 2017, 2018. Like, you don't just overreact and say, oh, we're better than this. Like, look, you can call it dumb. Like, sure, it's crass, and maybe you can say it's insensitive, whatever. But it's like, this isn't like a chat between people, actually politicians in power. This is like,
it's not Marco Rubio
right?
text with
Yeah,
Stephen Miller and
story.
Yeah.
But that's what they're trying to play to. These guys aren't running for, yeah, sure, maybe they're congressional staffers, but like, Lord, wasn't there a congressional staffer that literally took it in the ass in the chambers?
Yes.
And recorded it, and like, very unbecoming, if you ask me. Way worse.
Do you remember the left's reaction to that?
No, I don't.
It was basically, what they do is none of your business, and you shouldn't be leaking this out there.
It is, if they're doing it.
It's actually a blessing of liberty, guys. So, that's exactly what Thomas Jefferson and all those guys had in mind for the chamber.
No, that's freedom, okay, you bigot.
They weren't Greeks. I don't know if you know that, but
just had to bust that
out. Is that the whistle of shame?
Basically. And when I watched that clip, this was my reaction. Sorry, I didn't watch it, but it came across my timeline, and I was like, why are these people reposting gay sex on Twitter right now?
God, politics is sometimes it's just like a car crash, and you just can't look away,
We're lining them up, okay. Just getting the soundboard warm here.
Warmed up.
So I would say I'm not going to take any shit from someone who flies a communist flag when the top 3 genocide folks in history outside of Genghis Khan go in this order: Mao Zedong, communist, and Joseph Stalin, communist, and then Hitler. You know what? I don't want to hear it. I'm just putting that out there.
No, that's actually a fair point. And I've said that a lot, where, like, people can be open communists. And I'm not advocating for people to be open fascists either, necessarily. I'm just saying that the Overton window is like, yeah, but that's that genocide, I mean, we don't talk about it, or it's not real. And you can be professors, and you can be an open communist, but somehow that mass death is different for the communists. I don't know.
Yeah. They brush it off by just saying, oh, real communism's never been tried, or that was just a little out of hand communism. Okay.
Little out of hand.
Actually, that was communism. I'm actually a democratic socialist, so they just use little tactics to how would you say, to juke or to dodge the, the genocide of the Holodomor. How many people don't know about the Holodomor? And if you don't, then
they deny it. They say it never happened.
That too.
Right, and you can be a Holocaust denier from a communist perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So, my favorite thing is I'll see someone wearing a Che Guevara shirt with a rainbow flag. And I'm like, you just don't know history. And then you realize they don't know history because they've controlled the Department of Education. They've taken out all the negatives about communism because, as it turns out, they like communism. So we're not talking about the negative thing. We're talking about only the positive of communism, and anything to the right of Chairman Mao is, alt-right. We can't have it. And
so isn't there, I guess we're going down into the weeds, and we're going off of news and talking about more like political ideas and stuff, which I actually like. So it seems like there should be a distinction between Nazism and fascism. I know that Hitler kind of embraced that label, but I think that Italian fascism is different than, say, 1930s German Nazism. Is that fair? Or do you know what I mean?
The National Socialist Party, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Where they had healthcare and, government jobs, paid for everything, everybody, all kinds of what does that sound like? That doesn't really sound very right wing.
Well,
I don't want to get into that.
Yeah, I mean, I know we've had this discussion before. I think like National Socialism or fascism, it's according to modern terms, in terms of like pure freedom, free markets, not government programs, it's certainly economically left. I guess the difference between fascism and communism in that way is that fascism still maintains the national identity, whereas communism is, in my opinion, just a destabilizing force. And you could say the same. This is not me advocating for fascism, but I'm just saying that it's like an international movement. It's trying to strip a nation of its identity in every way, like religion and that. And I don't know enough about Nazi Germany in terms of the churches. The Nazis were more a cult than they were, like Christian or anything, as far as I can tell. But
if you know your history, you'll know that Hitler was going after the Ark of the Covenant. He was going after the Spear of Destiny. These are Catholic Christian relics. He believed in it. He also believed in other stuff. He didn't really have his stuff nailed down. They turned him down for art college, and he lost his mind. But I don't think they had as much of a problem with religion.
The devil also believes God exists and that the resurrection occurred. So I think them going after those relics of Christendom or Christian history, I don't know if that's what you're saying, that they had a veneration for Christian relics.
Let me clarify. First of all, the devil doesn't think that. He knows that because he kind of witnessed it. Second of all, it's not so much a veneration. And I'm also not saying they're right or good or anything like that, but they definitely, as a state, have no opinion on religion. Whereas communism, you have to eliminate religion because the state has to be the god. And you see it in leftists. That's why most of them do not believe in God, or they believe in, all that other stuff. Transgenderism or climatism, paganism, I'm a witch, I'm a warlock, I'm a whatever. That kind of is where that comes from, I think.
Lots of witchcraft on the left.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Well, I mean, yeah, Marx was into satanic stuff, if I can remember correctly. I know he wrote some, I don't know if it was poems or some different weird stuff about it. But I mean, if you're, we've talked a lot about Satanism on this show. And one of the things, I actually did another show about it, but the thing about Satanism isn't necessarily to get people to believe in Satanism. It's to get them to believe in nothing. Because if you talk to people who are in the Satanic Temple, a lot of them will be like, "Oh, I don't believe in Satan. I just do all of these. So what are the rituals for? Oh, it's not. I don't believe in Satan.
It's fun.
I think, sure, it's edgelord stuff, but I think to some extent, maybe they actually do believe that, but it just shows you the absurdity where they're dedicating their life to something that they themselves don't believe in, which allows the absence of a belief in a higher power, quote unquote, to be filled in with satanic stuff. Literally, they don't even realize how much of a mindfuck they're putting themselves through. But relating it back to Marx and communism, if you're anti-religion, if you want the state to be God, a satanic belief system or ideology can go hand in hand with that. And if we look at the cultural Marxism that's been going on, that there was a certain school, the Frankfurt School, that pivoted from the economic stuff more to cultural issues. The witchcraft and how many queer witches do you see on Instagram? Like, I'm queer and I do witchy things. Like, it's very trendy, but it's trendy for that reason, because the culture has been shifted to nihilism, Satanism, hedonism, and just nonsensical postmodernism. But yeah, that's my take on it.
What's the saying? Do as you will is the whole of the law.
Yeah,
that's a power. That's Aleister Crowley. That's very. It's not powerful in like a good way, but it's a very powerful statement. If you believe that you can do whatever you want and that is right because you want to do it, that's a very dangerous mindset. Even removed from religion, that's a very dangerous way to think, because you're going to think the only thing that matters is you, and you see it everywhere. So many people are self-obsessed. They don't even understand when they cut you off, or when they harm you. They don't understand why they should care, because it doesn't affect them.
Yeah, in leftism, there's two things you're allowed to worship. It's the self or the state. But you can't worship God. Or maybe the universe. Maybe there's some hippy-dippy ones that are okay with the universe, but
I'm about to make myself look ignorant. What's the church? Is it Unitarians? That's basically, we go to church to say that we don't believe in God. I mean, they say they do, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, or Universalist, I think, is another one that's like that.
There's a couple of sects like that where they, it's, I don't know.
It's just where they're able to go on Sundays and do churchy things and then have like a community in a church, quote unquote, but they want the thing, but they don't want God as a part of it at all. Yeah.
They want the...
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Tyler.
I was going to say, I've been to one before, because we have mutual friends that go to a Unitarian church, and I went with them one time, and it was like they just like sang Beatles songs. and like, yeah, they just sang like Beatles and who else? Neil Young type stuff, just like old pop songs from the 60s and 70s that the boomers love. And and that was it. But it was in an old church, though. It was like in an old, beautiful church. And so when I like got there, I was like, oh yeah, all right, that's kind of cool. They invited me to church. Let's see. And then it was just the most like, I don't know, it was so bland, and it was just, there was no real like fire for it. Like you said, it was just doing the churchy things without actually like having any sort of theology.
Yeah, it's to make yourself feel good. I'm doing good, but you're not doing any good. You're serving only yourself.
Yeah.
Again, the obsession with the self.
Right. Yeah, and that is a huge part of Satanism is self-worship. I mean, I think it was Bill Cooper who said that Satanism is well, it's not just Bill Cooper. I mean, it is what it is, but he was talking about it, and when man puts himself above nature or God, like he then thinks he is God, and that to a certain extent is Satanism, or a key component of it. And that's the same thing with scientism. That's why scientism is a version of that, where, and you see that in the people that just trust the science. There's no, the question of why we're here or how we're here is very uncomfortable for them. And so it's more like, let's break it down into the scientific process. Like, oh, I can get behind the Big Bang. I just don't know I don't want to know what started the bang. And it becomes this very reductionist. It's like an abstraction of the world we live in that can be narrowed down and talked about in a scientific way, but it doesn't, it's not the sum totality of everything. And I think that mindset in general, if you think about it, really leads to being propagandized to believe a bunch of bullshit, because you're compartmentalizing, the spiritual world, God, or the universe into all these different categories. And so people are primed to accept the scientific authority because they've shunned the authority on the author.
When you constantly bombard people with subliminal messaging, some overt messaging for years and years, decades, if not, the better part of a century of a scientific worldview where everything is explained by science, we don't need any sort of spiritual, spiritual language is just gibberish. And so we can look to science to answer all of the relevant questions. When you constantly bombard people with that, and then you give them a constant slow drip of fluoride that calcifies the pineal gland, and then it stops people from being spiritual and asking big questions. I mean, geez, you see a society like we do of people who don't ask why because their pineal glands are calcified.
Nailed it. We should just wrap the show up after that.
All right. And
I got gonged.
Yeah, there's good gongs and bad gongs, everybody. You'll see it used both positive and negative. Yeah, no, that's exactly right.
Our most primal force is our free will, so that actually our will rests within our mental state on being able to act or react to what we encounter. So that's really what they aim to program, is our subconscious state of mind, which will direct our actions throughout our life, So their goal really is to, like you said, invert what is natural towards this like a division of those that have their will focused on prioritizing their individual well-being, and then the others that are choosing to pretty much consider all around them as part of their drive and motivation.
So real quick, you touched on something and it kind of lit something up in my head. You talked about free will. I would say the people who worship the self, the Satanists, they have the illusion of free will, because they're allowed to do, they're like a dog with an invisible fence.
Yeah.
We can do whatever we want as long as we, we say that boys can be girls. We say that we don't listen to Robert Malone or Pierre Corey. We don't listen to them, but we believe in science. Never mind, they are science. Whereas someone who has a spiritual connection actually does have more free will, to the way I see it.
Right. Yeah. That's why I was saying they aim for our subconscious mind and the mental state, because from there they can pull the strings whichever way they want. Really,
they trick them into thinking they made up their own mind. That is why you will see people at protests, and they have people watching out for people on the right with cameras, because they'll walk up to him and say, "What are you protesting?" Trump. Why? Because he's bad. What do he do? I don't know.
Let me look at my pamphlet.
Yeah. Let me read that sign over there.
That's always the funniest thing about those man in the street videos, is the fact that somebody has to police the speech of the people who are there to voice their speech, and they support the same thing. Does anyone see how absurd that is?
Well, we all do, except for them, because what invariably happens is someone will come up and say, "Don't talk to them. No, I got this." And then they'll say the most out of pocket stuff ever. Or they have no idea why they're there. It's never someone with a calm, rational explanation. And it's not one or two, it's multiple videos where that happens.
Yeah, and I noticed that it's whenever I encounter an actual liberal, libtard, shitlib, leftist, whatever you want to call them, it's all just moralizing. That's the word I want to use. They're moralizers. I call them arbitrary moralizers. And so it doesn't matter really the facts or anything like that, because to them, what they see as moral or immoral is obvious, and you don't need to explain it. And that's what I notice about them. So if you say, "Hey, this is wrong that ISIS is deporting people. It's wrong to shut that border." And it's like, "Well, why? Why is it wrong?" Because it's obvious. It's so wrong. And if you can't see it, then you're one of them. So it's arbitrary moralizers is what I call them.
And for the party that's supposed to be the learned people, they can't come up with their own opinions. Every argument it comes out on the news, and it's drilled into their heads. It's blasted out on social media by Harry Sissy and I can't even think of any of the other ones. The Krasensteins, the Midas Touch folks, and they give
Lincoln
them their
Project is another one.
They give them their marching orders, and then when that operation's over, they forget it. We touched on the protest, the No Kings protest. The last ones went over like a fart in church. And as we remember, Vance Bolter, that morning in Minnesota, he did what he did. I don't terms of service, so I don't want to say anything out of pocket, but he said, I think what that was to distract anybody from any violence. The problem was no one showed up. Like Canada, they're gonna have a country, but no one showed up. And I'm wondering if that's what we'll see Saturday, because a lot of people are saying that the government shutdown is going to last until after Saturday, because these lawmakers don't want to have to face a city full of angry protesters that
totally
capitulated to Trump.
Yep.
So I think they could have gone in there and given them everything they wanted, and they would still not reopen until after Saturday.
Right.
But the question is, how many people are actually going to show up? You hear there's been a psyop on conservatives in this country for a very long time to make you feel isolated, to make you feel alone, that you're on the fringe. And when you start to look into the dead internet theory and realize how many people are bots that you're arguing with, and then you start talking to people around you, and you find out that most people are pretty reasonable, and the people that are with the blue hair and the piercings and those are the fringes. Okay. If they get 200 of them together, it looks like a big group, but that's not necessarily a big group.
Not to disagree fully with that, because I do think that a lot of the mainstream left has been astroturfed, and also everyone's been collectively made to believe like, oh yeah, this is clearly the majority opinion of everybody. Yeah. But I will also say at the same time, and because I don't think that's true, the silent vote majority that clearly showed up in this election. However, living in an urban area, I do think there are and especially after Charlie Kirk, I heard it at a local establishment, the owner of this bar, brewery, whatever, saying it was poetic that Kirk was assassinated. So I heard this stuff, and I do think that viewpoint is still very. I mean, if you're in a blue area, you definitely feel it.
Yeah.
But in terms of the passion enough to go out to this No Kings protests, like I've said this before, that I think people have the protest fatigue. They got all that energy out in 2020, and look what happened.
Well,
they don't remember that. If you remind them, like, hey, do you remember Chaz? You remember that?
No.
Most of the people that were like, oh yeah, hashtag BLM, they won't remember that shit. So they're just NPCs, really. But there is a lot of those people out there still.
Oh, I'm not saying that they're few and far between. There's just far less than you're led to believe.
Well, the No Kings protests are going to be huge, and it's because they're paying the people to come. They're paying people to come and protest, but also because there's a ton of boomer shit libs that are all retired and don't have anything else to do. So I think we're going to see some decent sized crowds, but I don't think it's going to be anything like Summer of Love.
No.
So why are these people showing up in October when they couldn't be asked to in June? Where were all those people then? Almost nothing happened that day.
Yeah, I don't think much is going to happen. I think a lot of the people that were funding it are under potential investigation, so they are,
now
playing their cards close.
Something that occurred to me today that I forgot was the woman who's the heir to Walmart was handing out those masks that when you threw, like, they were the kind that could have
like a gas mask.
Gas.
Yeah.
Like super expensive, super specific gas masks. And there was a truck of them that showed up at a protest, and they tracked it back to her. So I don't think she'll be donating anything this time.
Because USAID got closed down?
No. She paid for them. She's a billionaire.
Well, with the whole Antifa, designation, they're talking about foreign designation, which I think would a domestic terror group, it doesn't really, I don't think it carries the legal teeth that a foreign terror organization does. Now, I don't know if that means that we're going to be sending Antifa to Gitmo necessarily, but I think that that's something to consider in terms of they can't pull off a 2020 basically now because Trump has done a lot more to actually go after these people. So, and I just don't think they have the energy, man. I mean, the ICE protests, there's a fervent minority who go out there and a lot of them commit violence. Can I just talk about this whole inflatable animal shit?
Yeah.
So it's I will say it's very effective. It's actually from the Antifa handbook. To make it seem like this is the extent of the protests, and you can already I'm sure that they've covered Frog Tifa guy on Kimmel, but just as like, look, they think this is a terror group, right? So it's just the optics where it looks playful, and you look at it and you're like, man, if I was dumb and uninformed, I might actually fall for that, So it is very effective propaganda.
It's I think it's narrative triage. They're just desperate for any sort of negative news, against Republicans or whatever. And all they can do, they can't even contain the narrative, so they've resorted to killing us.
Did you guys see the nude biker protests against ICE? It was in Portland. So they're just going all angles.
Yeah, right. They're desperate, man. I mean, this also brings up another point with Joe Rogan.
What's going on with Joe?
Well, he's definitely been pushing back against the mass deportations. Which is confusing because it's like, Joe, I mean, deportations means anyone in the country illegally. It's if you want to enforce the law, you have to actually enforce the law. And sure, not all of them are going to be violent gang members. And you can understand. I knew this before this whole thing was going to happen, that a lot of people who were, moderates or centrists or ex-liberals, quote unquote, that the compassionate heart, having a heart thing that he talked about on his show can take over, because it's not pleasant. It's like, but enforcing the law is also not pleasant in general. So if we are to deal with this problem, which was created in large part by Biden, at least in the recent surge, that humanitarian crisis that now, like, if you're trying to enforce the law instead of just legalizing everybody, you have to do that. And it's not going to be pretty, but like, are we really at this point? Like, Joe is supposedly the alpha male podcaster. But it's like he gets convinced by that more feminine argument.
He gets stuck in his feels, is kind of the way I would say it. And policing is ugly. That's the harsh reality. Policing is ugly, especially out of context. And that was always my fear. My fear was MAGA, the right. We're going to lose the midterms. We're going to lose the next election because we want those deportations, and it's going to look so ugly that all Americans are just going to reject it because how good they are with propaganda. And I was surprised not to see that backlash sooner, but you are seeing it in somebody like Joe Rogan.
So real quick, Adrian, have you seen what Kimmel said about Antifa?
Yeah, what, it doesn't exist or something?
No. Hold on, I'm gonna share it for all the folks who haven't seen it.
This is no different than if they announced they rounded up a dozen Decepticons.
The machine also doesn't want you to think
Sorry
that
that it's Dave Rubin
even exists. You'd have to ask the people over at the Portland courthouse.
Probably deals with copyright.
But here is quote unquote comedian. What are we calling him now? Jimmy Kimmel on that.
You understand?
I'm just going to play his comments, and that'll be it.
Antifa. This is an entirely imaginary organization. There is not an Antifa. This is no different than if they announced they rounded up a dozen Decepticons. We've captured the Chupacabra, everyone. And then it was Trump's turn to ratchet up the rhetoric with fiery images conjured from no one has any idea what.
Look, I'll tell you a little thing.
That was actually kind of funny.
Decepticons.
Yeah, the Decepticons was kind of funny. I mean, obviously it's based off a fucking totally false premise, but
yeah.
No, but it's funny that you didn't know that, but you basically said, instead of Decepticons, you had said, I can't remember what you said, but that stuck in my mind, and I had heard that on a show. So that's what they're telling people. It doesn't exist. You're ridiculous if you think it exists.
Those tinfoil right-wing bigots are at it again with their mis and disinformation. I like how they say mis and disinformation.
Oh, don't forget malinformation.
Mis, dis, and malinformation.
You need 3 words to say lie. This is why nobody can communicate with you.
But it's not a lie, Steve. It's not always a lie. It's just, it's mean. It's mean information.
It's inconvenient. Inconvenient information. But this is so.
Have a heart, Steve. Don't talk about information that is mean. Okay, we are in this house. We're loving, and that's why we want to kill you.
So all 75 of Jimmy Kimmel's viewers are running around with that Decepticon talking point, and but that's how they do it. And those people are so dug in, and there's people on the right that are dug in too. Okay. You couldn't change their minds for nothing.
Oh, I'm dug in.
Yeah.
I mean, I play open-minded on this show, but I'm not open-minded at all.
So you've changed sides more than once. Or only
yes,
once.
I'm a triple agent at this point.
Yeah. But so as us, we'll wonder, like, how can people think that these ridiculous stories are true, because they never see anything to the contrary. They don't venture outside the MS. They do what they accuse us of. So how many times have you been accused of getting all of your information from Fox News?
Yeah.
And I say, what is this, 2009? Nobody watches Fox News anymore.
Hmm.
I do.
Do you really?
I do. I got to get my talking points, man. And I'm not kidding. I love Jesse Waters' show. I like Gutfeld as well.
I like Gutfeld. I will give you Gutfeld. And Kennedy's great too. And what's Tyrus?
Oh, and also The Five. I love The Five. Fox and Friends. You know what? I love Fox News.
But the point is they get their information from MSNBC, which at this point, yeah, they don't even try to pretend anymore. MSNBC, the mask is off.
To be fair, I was booing both Fox News and MSNBC.
We're
Jesse
fair
Waters
here
is-
on this show.
He's fine. I liked it when Tucker was on, but at least Tucker. But yeah, I mean, don't you mean MS Now, Steve? Are you misgendering MSNBC?
Not yet.
Yeah,
Are they changing their name?
MS Now. Yep.
Because
well, the NBC
Rebrand.
I want to say NBC is like distancing itself from it.
so what it is NBC got in a merger. They got acquired, and who acquired them has no interest in propaganda, as it turns out. So they are just getting rid of them. No, they are. So their budgets are going to be slashed because they're no longer part of Comcast. And they're going to, they're already struggling. Like you saw, they fired Joy Reid. I'm sure Mr. Potato, wait, does he work on CNN? I don't even know where these dinks work. But they're going to have trouble getting and keeping talent.
Yeah.
Because the big money contracts are gone. Rachel Maddow took a huge pay cut. I don't know if you heard about that.
Yeah, they're gonna slowly die. They're gonna die.
She, what was she making? Something like $300,000 a day, every day of the year, but she only worked Mondays.
Jeez.
And
Yeah, she made like 90 million a year or something like that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
she went down to 1 day a week. It's like what a gig that is.
she did that
Hey.
before the pay cut.
Proper communist oligarch, if you ask me. Another person, you mentioned Joe Rogan, Have a Heart. You know, we went over to MSDNC or MS Now. But somebody else who I've seen actually pivoting a little bit is Tony Hinchcliffe. A couple of the past episodes on Kill Tony, he was kind of distancing himself from the idea of being labeled as a Republican specifically. He was like, oh, people think I'm a Republican just because I, helped Trump to win. And then he kind of like made a few little comments like throughout the show that I felt like he was obviously trying to distance himself from Trump, from MAGA, from and from being a Republican or a conservative or anything like that. And I thought that was a little bit, I feel like it's a little bit of a pussy move. Maybe it's smart to kind of distance yourself from it. You don't really want to appear to be a complete partisan and lose, you don't want to be a hack, but
Let me
a
put on
partisan
my
hack, but
let me put on my tinfoil hat. Where did Kill Tony just get a huge deal?
Netflix, they've been,
Oh, maybe they said part of the deal is you got to start distancing yourself. And they backed a dump truck of money up to his house. And he says, you know what? I need that money because I won't make it anymore.
Yeah, I didn't consider that. I haven't finished that episode. It's funny you say that, and I didn't think a lot of it, but at the time I was like, yeah, why do you feel like you even have to make this point? Like, oh, I'm a rational centrist.
Yeah, he literally said the word centrist, which I actually find myself being a little bit more centrist nowadays, to be honest. I'm pretty centrist on stuff. But yes, he, like you said, Adrian, like he specifically mentioned it. It was like on purpose,
Right.
Well, I gotta say right now, I am completely neutral when it comes to politics. I don't vote, but I take in all information and I see the obvious clues of the left on the crazy train and the right on a logical train. So I think overall the right side is secure for the future on politics overall, like because there's a lot of centrists out there that don't want to choose a side and they're seeing the games being played on both sides. But they see the logical approach to the right, so they're going to vote right.
Yeah, well, this brings up a point that I've been thinking about. I actually heard it from somebody else. But when it comes to politics in general, the terms left and right kind of fall short, and this whole spectrum in general uh, is kind of incomplete, because what it really comes down to, if you think about it, is there's two sides. There's the people that want you dead, and then there's the people that don't. And maybe that's more extreme, but you felt it during COVID, and I certainly felt it post Charlie Kirk, where it's like, oh, there's plenty of people out there who literally want you dead. If you are even close to this, if you're not vaccinated, if you don't trust the science, if you don't affirm this gender, if you don't believe in whatever policy we're talking about, they would be fine with you dying. And that's it's not an exaggeration. So for me, and that's kind of why, regardless of the sides of Republican or voting for a particular politician, it's like, you're on a side, in my opinion, and not you specifically, Silas. I'm just saying in general,
Jeez.
people are I'm calling you out, dude. You are on a side. But in the great, game, or the great, like the I should say, just the general political environment that we're in. I mean, it's really come down to that at this point, and the whole people talk about friend enemy distinction. People that either are do these people literally want me dead? And when you think about it, that got me off the sidelines personally in terms of politics, in choosing that, because I'm like, yeah, I mean, we clearly can see that, like, one side, like, would want me dead, and I didn't want to say I was on this side, but they're, you know what I mean, like, push up against the wall. It's like, that's something that I constantly think about with this whole situation, which is why I got so passionate about it. But
I just want to clarify, when I said I find myself being a centrist, I'm still a very tribal partisan hack when it comes to Republicans versus Democrats. I think the Republican Party, hell, she ain't perfect, but it's not only is it just the lesser of two evils, like there's actually decent, good things happening on the Republican Party, mainly due to Trump and his hostile takeover and his rebranding of it.
Yeah.
But what I mean when I say centrist is I actually more on policy, not necessarily like politically, I guess, with like electoral politics, but actually just on policy. Like I'm okay with a social safety net. There's so many small L libertarians on the right, or MAGA adjacent, that are obsessed with the idea that there can't be any sort of social safety net. The social safety net, to me, only got out of control because we have bad elected leaders, and maybe it's utopian of me to entertain the idea that, hey, maybe we can just get better people in there and we can just make it work better. And the reason why I'm hopeful about that is because I think good people are actually starting to run for office. The Christians and conservatives and traditionalists and the libertarians were just like, I just want to be left alone. I just want to be left alone. And now, especially after COVID, a lot of people that weren't politically involved are starting to get involved. And Christians specifically are starting to get over their allergic reaction to getting involved with politics, but also seeking political power. So we're seeing a huge shift right now which could last for 50, 60, 70, maybe even 100, 200 years, of a change of people, good people, actually getting involved and stop being like, oh, just leave me alone, because they're not going to leave you alone. So we're seeing a whole different level of politician nowadays than we were, I'd say, in the past like 40 years. And I got to give Trump credit for that. Him coming in as an outsider has inspired a ton of people to actually get involved and run decent campaigns. And I love the idea of an everyman politician that's funded by the people. It's possible. So maybe it's utopian of me to think that we can actually wrangle the federal government, wrangle the beast, and actually wield the power justly, but I don't know.
Probably not.
Yeah, it's going to take an awful lot. And as far as like the right left dichotomy, I mean, that's kind of for children. It's a team sport.
Hmm.
I'm going to point something out, and you're all going to look at me like, duh. But Republicans run on gun rights, and Democrats run on abortion rights. And they have my entire life, and neither side has fixed it. Because if they fix it, there's nothing to run on. Their policies are set up to divide people into two camps so that nobody can agree. There shouldn't really be parties, but I understand why there is. Because if there was no parties, you would have 534 people who didn't agree on anything. Kind of like now. But they wouldn't have little letters next to their name. I'm hard pressed to think of too many Democrats in my lifetime that I've liked, but it's because they advocate for a lot of things that I don't care for. I'm okay with people having like you say, a social safety net, but the problem is, look at what Social Security was, and look what it is now. Originally, you would work, you would pay into it. When your time came, you would take money out. Now they were paying Social Security checks to people who were older than America, who were long dead before the program even existed. And we chuckled at it. It was kind of funny, except no, it's not, because you can't have a system paying 6 people for every person paying into it.
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be fraud with these types of government programs, and I actually would, again, as a post-libertarian, I've come around to more, not in the way that it's carried out necessarily, but socialized programs. But something about that's kind of lost in history is mutual aid societies back in like the 20s and 30s, prior to there being Social Security, healthcare, unemployment. There were mutual aid societies, and you paid in very small amount, and they would because it was like a kind of like how health shares now are an alternative to health insurance. It was like that, but on a local level, so you could qualify for all these benefits, and it was doled out by being a part of this society. And it's a lot easier to control that. Now, what happened was the American Medical Association, because there were you got health insurance through the mutual aid society. The AMA came in, I think in the 40s or 50s, and said no doctors can practice medicine at these mutual aid societies. So it was, you could say like, oh, that was capitalist, but it was just it was actually anti-free market. It was just monopolizing the medical system.
Oh.
And I think all these answers exist in general, political and social. I do think it's a little bit easier to carry out at a local level like that, but the system just has to allow for it. All these answers are out there when it comes to energy and medicine, and name the thing that we're all worried about. It all exists. It's just that control has been instituted that prevents it. But in terms of collective good, that idea that I've certainly chuckled at, like, oh, it's kind of used as a propagandistic term, but the collectives exist. This hyper individualistic thing that's been sold primarily to the right as the only thing that's acceptable. Like, you can only be an individual. You can't be a member of any other group. You can't see yourself as a part of anything that you can advocate for, which actually takes away your power. But collective power, using, like looking out for people's social safety nets, I think that those are all valid ideas that can be explored without becoming like a communist.
Of course. It doesn't have to be all or nothing.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be in a program that you can abuse. Health insurance, perfect example, right? You have car insurance, don't you? I mean, I hope so. I don't want to out anybody. If you don't, just nod your head and play along. In case something happens to your car, but you don't insure your gas tank, right? You don't pay insurance to make sure your gas tank is full. You know why? Because the cost would be astronomical. So why do I need health insurance for preventative medicine? That health insurance shouldn't touch that. Health insurance should be for catastrophes. If you took that out of it, the cost of it would deflate rapidly. Okay. But so we all know that health insurance charges 4 times, or the hospital bills your insurance 4 times what it costs, because they know that they're going to get whittled down to a fourth. When you go, they charge you 4 times and you don't have the power to whittle them down.
Right. But and this is the false dichotomy that we're in when it comes to, we can all look at the American healthcare system and say like it's incredibly expensive, it's expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not
needlessly.
You do get the best care probably arguably in the world if you can afford it. But at the same time, that system is paired up against what's happened in countries like Canada and Europe, where, and this is an issue I've wanted to talk about for a while, where it was revealed that Canada killed more people with MAID, the assisted suicide program, than people died of gun violence in the United States.
Yeah.
And so you switch that incentive system to basically like, well, this is going to cost a lot of money to give this person this care. We'll just legalize assisted suicide. And I mean, 16,500 people in 2024, I want to say.
Wow.
That's a lot of people, and it's gone up exponentially. And do you think there are 16,500 people in terrible, agonizing pain that are just wanting to end their life? Or is it, hey, we're being suggested this, you should just, there's been so many of those cases. And so that's always my fear. And especially after COVID, I'm very weary of like, yeah, let's just put it in the hands of the government. I do think there's a third way that we could explore, like I said, with mutual aid societies or something similar, but there's so much red tape and regulation that happens to prevent actual free market solutions. But yeah, I don't want to be killed by my government either.
So that you just said the answer: free market. So there's so much red tape to open up a hospital or a doctor's office. Get rid of that red tape. Let the free market decide. Let people go, and if they have a good experience, they'll say, yeah, go here. They have a bad experience, they'll say, hey, don't go there. But don't tell me that because I work at company A and their HMO only allows me to go to this doctor, that's the only doctor I can go to. It's 3 towns over and they're 3.5 months behind, which does happen. No. Let this guy go to medical college and open up a doctor's shop right down the street.
Yeah. Something I'm less centrist about. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Steve.
Yeah, you're fine, buddy.
Okay. Something I'm less centrist about is regulation and over-regulation. I don't think that having a social safety net for things like, to help people pay for food and stuff like that, or single moms to pay for food or whatever. Mm-hmm. But like you hit the nail on the head, Steve, about the regulation. That's what actually strangles the free market and doesn't allow it to do its job. And, they probably do that on purpose so that way they can say, hey, look at, see the health, the free market doesn't work. And so the government needs to step in and come up with a solution or whatever, which always ends up in more power for the government and such. So I'm generally against like over regulation, but okay with some sort of social safety net. And it makes sense that it actually came down to the conversation, the topic actually steered into healthcare because, I think that's all that the Democrats have right now, because I think that Medicaid for all, those types of things, and like healthcare and cheaper healthcare really resonate a lot with voters, for better or worse. And so, the Democrats really need to run on that. I don't want to help them at all, but that's what they should just be hammering home, because Republicans are generally against that. Generally against like nationalized healthcare and Medicaid for all and stuff like that. And so for good reason, but it's so much more politically palatable to be like, every person deserves to have healthcare. Like, oh, and if you take it away, you're murdering people. So I guess on healthcare, I think I'm a little bit less centrist and a little bit more free market. But like you said, it's the regulations that are actually strangling the free market and not allowing it to work out. But at the same time, You know, I'm not a libertarian who's going to worship at the altar of the free market either. So
No.
You know,
But
Well-
as long as someone's qualified and they know what they're doing, there's no reason they should not be able to open a doctor's office and say, come on in, get your preventative care. We're going to check your blood pressure. We're going to catch stuff early before it turns into cancer. I personally have not been to a doctor since Bush was president.
Well, Steve, I mean,
cannot afford it.
this kind of goes back to your point about, they run on abortion and gun rights, but they never solve either of them. When it comes to cancer, they're never going to solve that problem because there's all these industries built around it. It's the same thing we talked about last time with colleges. You know, I'd love to see the college system as a whole just completely, let me hold on. I got a way to explain it. I'd like to see that, but unfortunately, their entire economy is built around this false market. And the same thing is true with healthcare and insurance and all these other bullshit industries that should be done away with. But this is the thing, like, people will argue against a lot of things with the American system and brand it as this is the problem of the free market. And to be honest, it's like kind of a false dichotomy that's portrayed between capitalism and communism to a certain extent, where there are a lot of issues with whatever it is that we're operating in with, corporate monopolies. But that's not really free market to the extent that we're talking, because it's not allowed to take place. Otherwise, the energy market would have been disrupted. The colleges, medical, like all of these answers are out there. We see it with Maha. Like, let's unleash what we're saying to where doctors don't have to worry about losing their license for, not recommending ivermectin over the vaccine or something along those lines, but it's a tall task. I mean, we probably need another 3 or 4 terms to actually have that political will. I mean, I think it'll happen culturally, but we do have a stranglehold right now with these agencies that collude with big business. And yeah, I mean, you could take that out of context and think I'm a leftist because I'm talking about, but true, I believe in capitalism just in the way that it should be done within a free market, truly. But
yeah. And the government is there to protect the free market. And free market is one of those terms that really kind of bothers me, similar to authoritarianism, where there is no free market. So sometimes, like, when they ask Nancy Pelosi, like, hey, what do you say to people who say that you're in, your stock portfolio has, increased this way, like 300% or whatever. And she'll just be like, hey, well, that's the free market and we live in a free market. And so I get to do whatever I want. And it's like, no, actually, we don't have a free market. We haven't had a free market I don't know if a free market actually exists. The only way that it would exist is like in a true anarchic sense.
There was one. They called it the Silk Road.
well,
that was a free market, and they put him in prison.
Touche. But the Silk Road had a philosopher king at the top that was, imposing his moral values.
Was he? You could buy guns, you could buy hitmen, you could buy drugs. It didn't matter.
But you couldn't buy CP, right? So there was a limit, I think.
Well, I agree with that limit, by the way. I'm no.
Hey, you're not in a free market, man. See, this is what a true libertarian they have that problem.
That's why I'm not a libertarian.
No.
Look what happened to Ian Watkins. He had a pretty bad Saturday. I don't know if you heard. Did you not?
No.
Do you guys remember the band Lost Prophets?
Sounds familiar.
They were early 2000s. Anyway, the lead singer in 2013 went to prison in England for just a hair under 30 years for the worst offenses. I'm not going to say them. He didn't survive Saturday. It took them over there 12 years to catch him.
Oh, wow.
And it wasn't the first time they went after him. If I would have known, I would have told you off air. But that kind of stuff, that's not a market thing. That is impending on someone else's rights thing. Because to create it, you have to hurt someone.
Yeah, it violates the the NAP, the non-aggression principle, and children that I used to be a huge fan and still am of Michael Malice. He's an anarchist, like a full-on anarchist, and he says one of the best objections. Well, there's two objections that he finds very difficult to overcome, and that comes down to child abuse and nuclear weapons. So those are two issues that he has a really hard time of actually, coming up with a coherent strategy for dealing with that in an anarchic system, and I think he's right, and I think it's good to steel man, your opponent's arguments like that.
No, they're pretty easy. Child abuse, someone else is going to come abuse you, and it's going to be okay that they did it. That's all there is to it. And I'm not one of these, I'm not one of these like psychopaths about it, but if you're going to hurt anyone, I think you open yourself up to get hurt. That's just all there is to it. You go and you punch some random guy in the face. Don't be surprised when his brother comes and punches you in yours. You hurt someone who is defenseless. Prepare to be defenseless yourself. And in anarchy, that would be what would happen. Mob rule.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's why, I used to identify as an ANCAP, anarcho-capitalist. And, when you just view the state as the problem of everything, then it's easy to forget that if the state went away, all of the issues of the people, of the different groups of people, would not go away, and they would create a state almost immediately. It may not be called a state, but it would be a state. It would somebody would have the monopoly on violence, and that would happen organically. And I think why I dropped it ultimately was because it was a utopian idea of what humans could be a few hundred years into the future when we have become truly actualized collectively somehow, which I'm kind of skeptical that every single person is even capable of doing that, to be honest. But I'm like when I realize that our current predicament, you can't just do away with all order, because that's how we've operated and will operate.
So
I just don't see it ever happening. But
the funniest is everyone pictures Mad Max in their head. Chaz is what happens. They had a police force in Chaz. I don't know if you know that. They deputized people in there to go around and almost immediately. So it turned out they didn't want to defund law enforcement. They just wanted to defund the actual law enforcement.
No, they wanted to be law enforcement.
Of course, they wanted to enforce their law. Right. That's what happens. Everybody thinks it's going to be roving packs of bandits. It will not. It will be coalitions formed along the weirdest lines you can imagine. We can't imagine it because it hasn't happened. But when society breaks down, like if there's a solar flare and all the electronics go out, it's going to get wild. And it's not going to look anything like what you picture.
I picture pure violent chaos.
Maybe for a little while, but not for very long. It's unsustainable.
Pure violent. I mean, eventually somebody will just gain enough power or something like that to where someone will quell revolutions.
Yeah, they'll establish order again.
Exactly.
I think we have the privilege of having lived in a society with a semblance of order for a very long time, generations. No one alive today has experienced true anarchy, at least in the United States, I should say. In other countries for sure, but I'm just specifically talking about the Western nations.
I'm sure all our listeners in Haiti were about to be like,
they're probably just giving me a but yeah, I mean, honestly, I think just within our society we have that idea, so we can entertain the concept of like, oh, well, yeah, if we didn't have a government, because we haven't actually experienced that in a while. And if you didn't, then you would probably forget the fact that a Chaz or a Haiti or, pick your apocalyptic movie would happen, because unfortunately we saw in 2020, like the thin veneer of society just peeled back and people just started blowing up buildings.
So I don't know if you guys know this, but there around the world right now, there is a shift to the right. It's not just America. Outside of Canada, you have Javier Milei. You have all those elections. They keep arresting people to stop over in Europe. Is it Myanmar? Some country just had a boogaloo. You guys?
I don't know if that was right leaning though, per se. In was it Myanmar? Maybe I was thinking
no.
Nepal.
Madagascar just popped off.
Okay.
In like the last week, we didn't hear about it because it's small and there's no dancing hippos, so they weren't interested in letting us know.
I think these are ops, to be honest with you, specifically in Madagascar and
probably
Nepal, because it's being done through Discord. So that to me, just, I don't know if you remember the Arab Spring. A lot of that was done with the State Department. That was like they overthrew governments throughout the Middle East, and so this is a tactic that they use. The same with Soros and color revolutions and all that. So I'm always skeptical of it, but they're not to totally dismiss your point about the world having a shift towards the right, and in countries like Germany and France and the UK. If it was just the native population there, I think that, and they didn't have a totally fucked parliamentary system, we would have seen what's her face in France,
Le Pen.
Le Pen, which they pretty much shut her out of they colluded together using the two parties to keep her out of office last time. But
that's why I'm always leery when people are like, we need a third party. No, the fuck we don't. Because Ross
at least
Perot,
not at this point, though, too, right now. I mean, maybe, who knows what politics will look like, electoral politics will look like in like 50, 100 years or something. But I don't know if it's axiomatic that third parties or multiple parties can't work. But definitely right now, it's a horrible idea.
I'd really like to get away from parties, to be honest with you. I would rather someone come out but here's the problem. You got 20 candidates, let's say, for president, and there's too much selection. And so people are just going to so if the news comes on and they say Jimmy Nutsack here is most popular, you're going to get a ton of people who vote for him just because they want to say they voted for the winner. And then you'll get a ton of people who vote for the second place candidate just to say they voted against it. So a lot of good ideas get lost that way. I don't know what the answer is, but what we're doing now isn't it.
Well, there's trade, like we've said many times, there's trade-offs to everything. So with a parliamentary system, you get more options, but do you? Or is it just easier for them to control where those options lead? Whereas if you have two, and it's really only two that can one or the other, then like we've said with Trump, you just infiltrate one party and it's actually easier to get in than having more choices. And that's why I hate this ranked choice voting thing that's sweeping across. I think it's confusing, but I think it's also utilized to manipulate the vote more because of that.
Of course it is. And that's why it's only
having more choices. So
it's only popular in places like Maine. Deep blue.
Well, Alaska has it. That's why Murkowski is still in there.
Yeah. So you remember Trudeau?
Well, yeah, of course.
He got he got in with 33% of the vote, which was enough because they have so many parties, and then the parties colluded and said, "This is our guy."
Yeah, they got Jack Meat over there
and then
get him in.
People like that have the audacity to call out the popular vote out here. Like, oh, well, Trump didn't win the popular vote. It's like, shut up, dude. You didn't even get a majority to get your position.
But he did this time. You notice they stopped talking about it.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, he won the popular vote. They've definitely. stopped it.
Trump did.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. I thought you were talking about Trudeau.
Oh,
for
no,
some
no,
reason.
Carney might have. Who knows? I mean, the Canadians.
Canadians are
spun
weird,
up
huh?
on-
No.
Trump kind of spun them up and torpedoed the chance for polio.
If you guys don't know how Carney won, the boomer population in Canada, they were so worried that Trump was going to take over Canada that they voted for Carney. They said this in exit polling. I voted for him because of Trump. So Trump's joking about the we're gonna take over Canada actually hurt us.
Hurt them, I guess.
And they have what they call first past the poll elections. And so I want to say a quarter of Canada their votes didn't even matter because he had won by the time their polling places closed. So
Well, now I'm thinking about this whole parliamentary, third parties, multiple parties, no parties, and two parties. It actually does make sense that reality skews towards two options. Either something is true or something is false. That's essentially the law of non-contradiction in formal logic. So either A is true or A cannot equal non-A is essentially what the law of non-contradiction is. So either the world is round or it's flat. It can't both be flat and round at the same time and in the same sense. So maybe this dualistic political political environment is really the end result, the telos of what politics will end up being, because there's a fundamental dualistic nature to the universe. What do you think, Silas? So, go ahead, Adrian, though, too. I'm curious about Silas.
It's been a while since.
yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. But I think there is some way of going about it that we can kind of do the no party thing, but still have an obvious, like Adrian was saying earlier, it's like you either are for life or against life in a way. And that's could be just a sub lying part of politics that everyone would understand at that point and realize, through their policies and everything, they're either overall for life or against it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I notice Elon actually takes that similar tack though too, because he talks about like the just antinatalist type people who aren't pro-human, and I noticed that seemed to be something that really drove him into politics.
Right.
But go ahead, Adrian.
Yeah, and I think under previous circumstances, there was more overlap between the two sides. There was less. It did feel less divisive, and there was. I think the issues have progressed to a point that it is pretty much truth versus falsehood. In terms of a lot, like the most obvious issues, like transitioning the children, or mandating vaccines, or doing things that are clearly against what we perceived our national identity to be, and just against life in general.
Abortion, I think, is a perfect example.
And and you can also say abortion, to where all those things kind of kept coalescing, and maybe it was the end result of maybe we have this natural polarity that arises over time where people get so off course, where they're advocating for some of the worst things you can be advocating for under the banner of being a good person, where it just naturally devolves into those two choices, and a lot of people like to make the argument that it's a false choice, like the two sides, the two-party illusion. And there's truth to the two-party illusion part, but to the two sides thing, it's kind of a chicken or the egg. Like, were we encouraged to go down this road, and then naturally people became tribal and drew a line in the sand and said, yeah, I'm going to stand for this. And then other people were like, that's crazy because we don't mutilate our children who can't consent, or, abort them, or whatever issue you want to say. to where it's like the gray areas when it becomes existential, like life and death is one or the other, right? You know, like that is clear cut and dry. There's no gray area in life or death, you know? And so whether it was manipulated or not, we are at this point where the idea of centrism itself to me is kind of a joke. You know, sure, you could be on some spectrum, but you're on a side. Like centrism is like, I'm straight in the middle. I don't see the left or the right as being good or bad.
So wouldn't that be more of an independent as opposed to a centrist?
Yeah.
Sorry to quibble about words, but
sure, I guess you could. Well, I mean,
a centrist would mean that you're like actually in the middle on the spectrum.
Yeah, see, I'm saying more on the spectrum because there are still independent people who don't have to identify as being Republican or whatever, but you can see like in terms of these issues, I am on this side of the discussion. You know what I mean? Like I am against this or I am for this. Like these very important issues. Now you can get into like, well, I don't identify as, you know, being on the Republican or Democrat or left or right. But when that's why I said the only difference that matters is the people that want you dead and the people that don't. You know, it's a friend and this is on or off. This is like you're on this side or you're on that side. And I think sometimes like writing that like I'm a centrist, and like we were talking about with Tony Hinchcliffe, it was like you don't have to make that statement, dude. You know, like
that was a weird
behind principles just because you know that those are right. Like, and I think that's kind of what's happened a little bit with Joe Rogan, where he feels that pressure of like, oh, but I don't want to be seen as like this guy that's just like some talk. Like, I'm still liberal, man, and but like you left California, man. You left California, you know, for a reason.
You voted that way probably for years and years and years, and then you saw the end result of what you voted for, and then you fled. You essentially helped destroy California, and then you fled to Texas, and immediately are like, you know, I don't really want to deport anybody. Like what?
Yes. And he talks about landscapers and stuff. I'm like, Joe, are you talking about your landscapers? Like, is this self-interested right now or what?
You have enough money to hire some decent American landscapers. When you want it done, I mean, the Mexicans are very good at it, though, I will say.
I mean, Americans can do the job. But
of course we can. They just don't want to pay the wage. Let me ask you, because we were talking about the binary choice. And that's kind of, humans tend to want things to be binary where they're not. Who's heard of the case of Emerson Evans? This just happened in Normal, Illinois. So we know Blue, Illinois, J.B. Pritzker State. I'm going to read this, so I'll be looking down. In August 2025, Emerson Evans was charged with 2 counts of intentional homicide for an unborn child after allegedly putting the abortion drug mifepristone in his pregnant girlfriend's area without her consent while she was sleeping. His girlfriend was 7 weeks pregnant. Told police that he had been pressuring her to terminate. He told the police he administered the pill, which he purchased for $50, and he was denied bail. Now, this is Illinois. This is a abortion right state.
Wait, he was charged with murder.
Intentional murder.
Oh my God, dude, how did it?
In Illinois, where they're all about Planned Parenthood, women's rights.
That is wild.
A baby isn't a baby until it's born. A 7-week pregnancy, this guy's getting charged with 2 charges of homicide. See, that's the problem with the binary choice, because they took the choice away from the woman and gave it to the man. Well, didn't give it to him, but you know what I mean.
Yes, so that's funny. Go ahead.
I was going to say, same thing with Scott Peterson. We all remember that. He got charged with 2 homicides in the state of California, whereas if Lacey Peterson had decided to terminate the pregnancy herself, there would have been no charges.
Right. So
that's the problem.
A baby is only a life if the mother wants it, is what I mean. Is that written into law? Because that's essentially what we're saying. Like, it's murder if the woman wanted to keep it, then it's murder.
Yeah, if the mother
literally the abortion drug, that's a crazy situation.
That just happened 2 months ago.
I'm happy that that Illinois was that based.
Which I understand, but it exposes the problem in the binary choice. You will see these people come on and they will say there's no heartbeat before birth. I just watched Stacey Abrams running her mouth about that. So you can't have it both ways.
But it is a binary choice though. And it kind of comes back to like what I was saying is that the universe almost has like binary
if you're being honest,
morals and stuff like that, like, so it seems to be the end result of
I'm saying,
things that happen, especially moral things, right?
For me, there is a binary choice.
Yeah.
It's a life. You either end it or you don't.
Yeah.
But to their logic,
either it's wrong or it's not wrong to intentionally end a human life, right?
Yeah, and I, for the record, I'm super glad that guy got charged. That was a terrible thing for him to do. If he would have gotten away with it, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, well, if it's not, it's either murder or it's not murder, and it's kind of like they give up the jig, so to speak, where they are acknowledging it is a form of murder because they wanted to charge him with that. Because if they charged him with something absurd that they don't actually believe, that like a term of, I don't know, involuntary abortion, what's that?
There probably wouldn't have been a charge for it. And I'm not discounting the fact I don't know where normal Illinois falls in the state. It could fall in a very red area. That is possible. But it's a cognitive dissonance to be able to see that and say, yes, that makes sense to me.
That is the modern left, as it were. I mean, it is nonstop cognitive dissonance, like we saw. My body, my choice. Not for that. So,
that's why they don't call it. That's why they don't say that.
Yeah, it's abortion rights. It's not pro-choice anymore. Yeah. No. So, and I see the ACLU people outside of the grocery store trying to get donations. I'm like, well, you guys didn't give a shit about civil liberties at all during COVID. You weren't advocating for that, but it's just selective, man. It's just a big power game. Like they will get people to totally swallow that contradiction. But in this case, like what we're talking about, it's either one or the other. It's either this or it's that.
Yeah.
And it can't be both, but in their world, it can be both. And it's why they constantly get into those things about, like with transitioning children, like, well, that's not happening. But if it is, it's a good thing. But you just said it's not happening. No, it's not happening. But I also agree with it, and it's good.
I got an even better one.
So why even argue with those people? That's why Charlie, it's over. You don't argue with that.
Do you remember?
You can't argue with both sides at the same time.
Do you remember the debate between Harris and Trump when he said they're transitioning illegal aliens? And Harris said, that's not happening. And then they literally found footage of her saying, yeah, I'm for that.
Yeah.
Well, if I remember correctly, the moderator came in and was like, sir, that's not true. That's not real. That's actually not factual. You're just making that up. That's actually not real. So just please stop. Shut up.
Yeah. They should have had that Rick James clip from Chappelle Show come up where he says cocaine's a hell of a drug for Harris, because literally that never happened, and then they proved it happened.
See, and that's kind of coming back to my point about, I think we are getting a better class of politicians. You look at people like Vance, right? I'm actually not the hugest Vance guy. I'm still a little bit on the fence, but I do think he's been doing a lot of the right things. But we're seeing a smarter, more logical, more well-spoken, very articulate, and also politicians that actually have a spine, right? So we're seeing a huge shift in politics, and that was such a white pill to see. When I was on the edge of my seat during the election, because I was like, "There's no way I'm going to lose faith in humanity if they elect this woman, this dingbat, this obvious drunkard." So I'm just feeling a white pill that all of America pretty much collectively just denied her, and I'm very, very happy about that.
So did you hear her comments today?
No, but I'm on the edge of my seat.
Do you want to pull them up, Steve?
Because I already miss her.
Them?
Yeah.
Pull it up.
I can't do this. I can't do justice to what this brilliant woman said. So let me see if I can find it here real quick. I mean, in a way, it's fun to say that we miss her and all that. But she wrote a book and she's going around and running her mouth everywhere. So you don't.
Dude, this
really...
tour has been a disaster. Predictable. I mean, you could have seen that coming, seen that train coming. Sorry, is that
good one?
But yeah. So she, I mean, outing she couldn't pick Pete Buttigieg because he's gay. I mean, that was the start of the tour. So I'm looking forward to whatever this new clip is here.
Unrelated. Just give you something to talk about while I find this, because for some reason it's not immediately popping up. Apparently, Rob Schneider's X account has vanished mysteriously.
What? Weird.
And this just happened.
Did he not take it off by himself?
They didn't say.
Huh. Okay. Well, maybe I don't see Rob Schneider as being the most controversial person on X. So, that's.
I mean, but it is weird.
Maybe I'll try to look it up for you. Let me see.
Okay, for some reason it keeps doing this. It won't load. It is not loading. Let's try this.
Is it her saying? Is she on stage with somebody?
Yeah.
All right. Well,
did you find it?
Yeah, I won't be able to hear it on my end, but I'll still play it here. Hold on.
Two chairs facing each other.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep, you found it.
This.
Yep.
Yes.
You guys aren't ready.
I'm excited.
Oh shoot! Did I not? Okay, I keep forgetting to
add to stage.
Add to stage. Hold on.
I got you.
I got it. Or not. Oops.
That is a decent resume, but go ahead.
But there, well, some people have actually said I was the most qualified candidate ever to run for president.
Ever.
Wait till you hear why.
I like the some people say. Very nice, but go ahead.
I'm just speaking fact.
Yeah. That is a decent resume. But
that's hilarious. Oh God, I actually love it.
That's the reason why. Sorry, I couldn't hear it.
Oh, she didn't say.
Okay.
This clip cut it off. She said because she was the DA in California, the second largest, Justice Department in the country, behind only the United States one. And because she's a black woman, she was a black woman senator, the first female VP, and that's why.
See, California is a big state,
and
it's the biggest state, and so what that means, that means I'm the most qualified because it's the most amount of people.
She said ever.
Yeah. Ever.
And I like how she did the Trump. It was actually kind of Trumpian. She said, some people say.
And that's why the woman's like, yeah, I like that you said some people. But speaking facts.
I'm just speaking facts. Dang.
Never mind that it's her and her husband, and that's about it.
Well, I mean, don't you guys feel good that America rejected that woman? I mean, that's good. And it makes me actually kind of like her a little bit more.
That it's always good to keep that in mind because it becomes so normal that Trump's back in office, but there was a time last year when you're on the edge of your seat, like, oh my God, are we, and for all, sure, Trump is not perfect. We can have our complaints about things, and he hasn't done everything we wanted, like the Ukraine war. And that's a big thing that we can talk about.
He did the Gaza deal so far.
That is That is a step in the right direction for
Mhm.
sure.
The hostages are back. So, and I did not think that was going to happen. So, and I think
Yeah.
is, like you said, Adrian, a step in the right direction. You know, I think everybody has a little bit, anybody with fucking 2 brain cells to rub together knows that that's a pretty, that war's not really over.
Yeah,
But if we can get some decently lasting peace where Trump has reduced the amount of death in the next 4 years, 5 years, or whatever, like that's an amazing accomplishment.
Mhm.
right. Well, in terms of the increasing death, the Venezuela boats. So I have mixed feelings on this whole operation. I just want to make that known. On the one hand, I feel like using the force of the military to go after cartels is potentially a good move, and to actually, do that. But the thing with Venezuela, but let's be honest, like if it was strictly about that, we would be going straight to Mexico, not Venezuela. Now it is Venezuela does do that. I'm sure Maduro is linked to it. Like, they've listed him as head of the narco terrorist organization, whatever. But I'm trepidatious because I don't think that's what this is. I don't think it's about narco terrorism. I think it's about China more so. It's geopolitical. Maduro's been a thorn in our side for many reasons. Also, they have a shit ton of oil there. And I don't like Maduro. I don't like the communist regime in Venezuela. So that's why I say I'm on the fence about it, because on the one hand, it's like, well, yeah, fuck Maduro. What's going on in Venezuela? But if we actually invade Venezuela, like, I don't know. I don't know what that's going to look like. It hasn't gone well when we've tried to do that in the Middle East. I know Venezuelan people, Jesus, they've been coming over here in droves. So clearly there is a large amount of people that would probably want that there. But there's other elements in play when it comes to why this is going on. And I don't think it's explicitly, I think that's kind of the first wave, is to justify potentially doing that. And I don't necessarily think it's for the reason of stopping the war on drugs. That's the main reason at all.
But will it reduce the amount of drugs coming in?
I don't know. Maybe
I think so. I don't think you could say that it will increase it. Won't a narco terrorist maybe think twice before getting on a boat filled with drugs and trying to bring it over here?
Yeah, from Venezuela. But that's the thing, is like the biggest cartels are in Mexico. For sure.
Well, maybe this is a way for him to send a message to the cartels in Mexico without like actually directly like attacking them.
Yeah, I think the geopolitics of Venezuela, like they owe a shit ton of money to China. They have a lot of debt. China is very in bed with Venezuela. And I think it's, if you think about it in terms of hegemonic control of your hemisphere, Venezuela, like I said, is like the biggest thorn in the side, and also potentially the biggest prize if you're looking at a chessboard in terms of the resources. Now they have
oil.
Their crude is what is the term? It's like sour crude. It requires a certain type of refining that only a very few, which we do have those facilities in Texas, I think. But my thought process behind this also, outside of the reasons for why we're doing this, because I don't think that's potentially the driving reason. Now maybe they're an easy target because they are outside of the, doing shit in Mexico would be real sticky in terms of our relations, whereas Venezuela is already a pariah state. But I'm a little hesitant to go full speed into it, because I think our focus should be on the home front of the domestic Antifa stuff. That's the most important thing. Venezuela, far down the list compared to Antifa.
Can't you do? You could do both, though, right?
Yeah. Well, so here's the thing. I was listening to a podcast, and there's a guy talking about it, and he was making the point that there are probably people within the administration who are pushing that, like, you can do both. But inevitably, when it comes to foreign conflicts, that will take, if we invade Venezuela, that's going to be the driving force of the media, it'll become the focus of the Pentagon, intelligence, everything will go towards Venezuela.
I don't think we're going to invade. I think they would do a regime change before they would do some sort of endless forever war.
Well, I hope you're right. I don't think it would be a full scale invasion like Iraq or something.
But something that is
but I'm just saying
slippery
to
slope
precipitate that to where it's enough of a story where we're, one way or the other trying to overthrow Maduro. I think it will take away from the home front.
Isn't this whole issue actually a domestic issue if it's about drugs being trafficked into the United States?
If that's the issue. I'm hesitant.
Well, I mean, the issue is likely oil. They want
right.
oil.
Well, yeah, that's the issue. Yeah.
Well, but Trump wants to ramp up domestic energy production. He's always making the noises that we have more than enough oil. We should be the ones that are producing it. We should be the ones that are selling it to everybody. So I'm not sure if I follow the concept of him wanting to invade Venezuela to take their oil.
I mean, invading Iraq in the Middle East wasn't about controlling their oil. I agree. It was about controlling the flow of oil. That's Afghanistan pipeline, Nord Stream 2 through Russia. It's not about who has the oil. It's who's able to sell it. And if you have, they have like I want to say the third most oil in the world. So it's not necessarily about selling it to the U.S. markets. It's also just about China can't buy it from Venezuela anymore. They don't have a cheap source of oil. That's what Russia's about. Iran's the same thing.
But isn't that good though, to choke out China or to play chess with China, because they're playing chess with us? So
sure. Well, that's a separate conversation, I think, where we're talking geopolitics, empire. Where we're talking grand chessboard level geopolitics, as opposed to, and that's why I bring up the issue of the Venezuelan boats, is that on the one hand, I'm favorable to going after the cartels if that's what it is. I don't think that's what Venezuela is. And again, I am very against Maduro and the communist regime there. However, it could be a somewhat of a quagmire, or something that is going to take away from, we need to focus on Antifa, full stop right now, because that is the most pressing issue to the political situation. Outside of, you can say the cartels, sure, they're killing people with fentanyl, all that, but that's also a border issue, and that is a home front issue of, deporting people who are doing that and then making sure it stays out. And sure, if you blow up a boat as a justification, if I'm looking at the surface level, I don't necessarily disagree with that. I'm certainly open to that idea of using the force of the military to protect the homeland, and you can make that argument. But I have my doubts based on, we tried to overthrow Venezuela first time during Trump, with the fake president that they trotted out. I can't remember that guy's name.
Yeah.
So it's been a piece on the chessboard for a long time for obvious reasons. If Venezuela didn't have that oil and that relationship with China, they wouldn't be fucking doing that.
So I would say look for Maduro to get the Gaddafi treatment. They're gonna stick a bayonet up his ass, literally. But that's what we do. You mentioned much earlier, you said that Trump's going after these riots and everything a lot more aggressively than he did his first term. Because he was running for president in 2020. He's not running right now. So any half measures he may have taken are off the table. I think he may have gone at it kind of half-assedly with that fake president. I forgot about that. Someone probably told him. Now, we know he had a lot of bad actors around him the first time. And he's got at least a few this time. I think I'm Todd Blanche. I'm kind of weary of. A lot of people are weary of Pam Bondi. But so they may have said, hey, I got a good idea. Let's just say someone else is president. and it made him look foolish. And then they don't, you know what I mean? You're weakening the walls from within. I don't think we'll see that this time. If they go for it, they're going to go for the gusto.
I don't think that anybody's really like thinking about getting froggy with Trump. And I think it's because he does this type of stuff. Like this is a show of strength, you know. This is a show of strength that I think is great. It's a way to take out a few, like, it's like minimal human casualty. It's not, Trump is really good at keeping us out of wars, actually. And so I think this is great. Like, it's a show of force. It makes them think twice. It also is a little bit of a it's just a message to China or whoever else wants to vie for the power, to, you know, whoever wants to challenge the empire. Trump has this unpredictability that, and he's kind of a dove in certain situations, and then in other situations he you know drops the Moab. So, you know, I love Trump's foreign policy, and I don't see any reason to question it. I mean, it's always good to question, you know, and kind of be wary, especially when there's war, when there's always a potential for war. But I feel like I'm a plan truster when it comes to this one. I don't know.
Which is fine. I never said we'd go to war. We didn't go to war with Libya either. I'm saying if they decide that Maduro's going to be gone, he'll be gone. It won't be there ain't going to be no Three Stooges going after him this time.
Mm.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think he wants to start a war with anyone, least of all a country that's backed by China.
Mm.
Yeah, and you know, I wanted to voice my concerns about this because if that's all that it is, then I don't really have an issue with it. Because, I mean, you could make the argument that of all the usage of drone strikes or anything else, like this, if we're going to use the military, this is actually related to the homeland, as opposed to
for the first time ever
foreign wars that like are not.
Yeah.
So I don't get down, you know, the Rand Paul, like, oh, this is like, dude,
oh God,
the government uses force sometimes against bad people. And, that argument falls flat for me. But my concern is that if it's more than that, and if it's going to take away from these other issues, then that's my problem. So I'm generally a plan truster. Trump has for the most part kept us out of foreign conflicts, or like not initiated new ones, or, you know, he's done a better job of that than really any president in my lifetime. But I don't think Trump, to go back to the title of the episode, Make Him King, Trump's still not king. He's got a lot of snakes and vipers in the military industrial complex, CIA. I mean, do you think Trump's in control of all operations going on within the government? Like, no, it's impossible. There's too much to keep track of. And so those forces can push and agitate along something that on the surface, if it's just what we're seeing now, that's one thing. But I do hesitate over going all in the sense of, like, you know, potentially overthrowing the government of Venezuela. I think that comes with a lot of issues that I don't know the actual ramifications of.
No. By the way, do you know what the intelligence community calls presidents? They have a term for them. They call them transients. They do what they're going to do no matter what.
Yeah, so there's grand strategy that the president can't affect the change of.
Because it's an overarching strategy that would take more than 4 years. You can't come in on year 3 of a 6-year plan and say, no, we're not doing that. Because you could potentially cost people their lives. So the intelligence community, who it would be that would go after the president of Venezuela, would do that on their own. I just want to be clear about that. I don't think Trump would ever say take him out. He would want to, if he was involved in it, he'd want credit.
But that goes to the point of, if they sell it to him as just bomb these boats to stop the cartels for the surface level reason, it could be a like start normalizing this, and then we're going to do our other things, and you're going to be holding the bag because it looks like you were the one escalating it. You know what I mean? That's something to keep in mind in terms of Trump's being sold these ideas all the time, and he may not be privy to what other plans are in place when it comes to that. Like, and you can make the argument like, well, like what we're saying. Yeah, I mean, it's a few drug boats of people that are clearly part of cartel operations. So use of force, you can see the argument. And I'm just saying off of that there could be more in play than what we know as now.
I guarantee you there is.
Yeah, that's a safe assumption. You know, I think it would be interesting to know, because in my imagination, I think of how deep it is. You know, what Trump is trying to do, he obviously has his own intel. I mean, he essentially probably has his own intel agency. You know, there's people that he trusts, spooks and you know, former military or former military that's advising him. People like Michael Flynn, like back in the day.
Tulsi Gabbard.
Tulsi, exactly. You know, Tulsi's a top spy, and so it's probably really interesting because they're keeping an eye on what the rogue elements of the intelligence agencies are. They must be, because Trump's not the type of person to really go in there and be like, oh, we're gonna just not pay attention. You know, he's just not that type of person to allow them to do whatever they want. I don't know. There are some way, in some ways it does feel like he's controlled, or at least there is some sort of grand strategy that he is listening to.
I think it's military intelligence. That's kind of part of that whole grand strategy of reeling the whole system back in. Because when you think about it, if this happens to any government, who does it fall on to try and fix it? Really, it's the military has the only like credible power against that type of takeover. So I think that's kind of what's happening in the behind the scenes. Also, I was gonna say earlier, with you know, Trump having that peace deal in Gaza going on, if he does pull off the Ukraine deal as well, I think he does have like a trump card up his sleeve. Maybe the military's making him like reveal a technology that is about to be implemented, and if you don't pretty much follow along with peace, then you're not going to be a part of this like revelation. It's either that, or maybe there is another group of beings that are you know, directing things towards the better rather than towards the worse behind the scenes.
Well, interdimensional child molesters.
No, I mean positive ones.
Oh, okay.
I guess that's more white pilled version, because the black pill in me is like, well, if Trump's making deals with military people and he ends all these conflicts, they're going to be like, dude, we were selling a lot of weapons here. We got to start something else up. You know, like,
right.
There's always that balance where, if you remember Afghanistan, we pulled out, not even 6 months later, the Ukraine shit pops off, and we got that same funding source. That, I mean, it's been a gravy train since 9/11, really, you know?
Yeah.
And that turning off those faucets, if you're actually making those decisions, it's like, all right, well, if you're not going to give us this, then give us Venezuela, or give us something else that keeps the gravy train going, and you can sell it as it's beneficial because of this. But I mean, those
maybe
we're not going to stop selling weapons. You know?
A shift into AI. I mean, that might be what he's selling them.
Well,
hey, there's going to be an AI industrial revolution. You know, war is a thing of the past. We are moving forward with peace, whether or not you like it. And so you're more than welcome to, you know, work in the AI sector or energy production or this or that. I don't know. I mean, so more weapons doesn't necessarily mean more war, though. So I think they can still produce. He does invest a lot in the military, though. So it's not like all the contracts are canceled because the Gaza war is over. I mean, the Gaza war isn't like very profitable to anybody.
But you don't need more. There's only so many munitions you can have before, like, weapons are one thing, but you're actively selling ammo. You know what I mean? Like you got the bullets got to be flying to make more money in that way. You can't because there's less of an incentive to buy a shit ton of bullets if you're not using them. You know what I mean? Just from a market standpoint. At the same time, and if you sell weapons, obviously just having a weapon isn't a bad thing. So like selling weapons, that's one thing. But I guess there's another element of, well, if that was the case, then why do we go? Why are these endless wars for military industrial complex? Like we got to sell shit that we've blown up, But so I don't know. I don't know if that's actually what's going on in this situation, but those are my just to kind of provide a counterpoint to what's going on. I think it's just something that we'll have to watch out for. We don't know what the grand plan is with a lot of these things, and I just kind of wanted to bring that point up in case that is what happens, because at the end of the day, since Trump got in office, it's been the border and dealing with far left insurgency violence and generally crime. Because I'm a homeland guy, I'm very much an isolationist in a lot of ways. Not totally, because I understand geopolitics exists, and it is what it is. You can't back out of that. But as much as we can focus on the issues at home, I think that's where we need to put our energy.
Yeah, I don't see the dichotomy, I guess. I do think we can do both. Look at what he's done with the border. It's been amazing. And foreign policy. The guy is just crushing it, I think. I'm not an isolationist. I think I'm definitely the most neocon in the group. I understand, just from my point of view, I do understand the grand strategy, and that if we do isolate, if we go from America first to America only and just isolate, then we're allowing other would-be global hegemons to rise. And so, unfortunately, and it sucks, but it just is what it is, that America is the best. We've got some crazies over here. We got some problems. There's definitely a military industrial complex. I won't deny that. But generally, our values and our foundational values far exceed the virtues of our foundational values far exceed that of, say, China or Russia or Iran or whoever else wants to get froggy. So that's just I guess that's my opinion, man. I don't know. I think it would be dangerous to isolate. And I don't know. I mean, I'm open to being convinced.
Well, the thrust of my isolationist focused, or more focused on the homeland than just everything else, is that in order for us to really expand or promote those values, we have to fix our house. You know what I mean? Before we start telling other houses, hey, look at what we got going on here. And you look at the streets of your city and you're like, damn, that looks like shit, dude. It's kind of one of those things where I'm not opposed to. I mean, you can make argument for colonization of some sort, like a softer version. Maybe it's closer to what China's doing now with developing and making relationships and all of that. But at the end of the day, and using that to promote our values and whatnot. But I also, in my opinion, we have to get our house in order to effectively do that. And Trump is focused on it more than anybody else. You can make the argument for or against tariffs, but that's what the argument is about, is to bring jobs back home and secure the border and all that. So that's really, I do think that there's a limited amount that you can focus on as a power center. So I want the balance to be heavily skewed towards domestic issues.
I say we just take over the world, institute a Christian empire, and we'll bring along the Constitution. just for fun, for shits and gigs. And I'm kidding, but I do think that you raise good points, but it's very unpopular to be a neocon or an interventionist, or it's more popular, especially in the libertarian circles, about to be more of an isolationist. So, I don't know. I guess my question to you would be this, and this is a little bit of a deeper question, and I hope I don't put you on the spot, but I'm going to do it anyway. You're post-libertarian or post-ANCAP. I think it's fair to say that you realize that you were wrong about a couple of things. So maybe you're wrong about this one too. So how do you, when you're kind of rethinking your worldview, how do you kind of parse through those things? I guess it just is with prudential contemplation.
Well, I mean, the fact that I'm even saying that using, drones to bomb boats is a positive thing, or use of state power to close the borders or utilize tariffs, which are, anti-libertarian ideas, or to use the military in a way that is beneficial, but is also using violence. I think those are all things that I've shifted on. But in terms of geopolitics and empire, I believe in the nation state. Before I didn't, but as a result of that, if we're going to be engaged in conflict, I just want it to be something that I see a tangible benefit for, or is justified. And maybe you can make that argument for something like Venezuela in that hemispheric dominance of your region and for the good of the state or the empire. But when it comes to everyday life, and I've talked about this a lot, and this is what ultimately caused me to shift, was seeing large amounts of people who had just arrived here illegally in, causing financial chaos for my city, and apartment complexes to be taken over by gangs. All of those issues are what caused me to get off the sidelines. Now, when it comes to foreign conflicts, there are people that, we used to have spaces, people make the argument that we should be involved in Ukraine war to fuck over Russia for the extent that we can sell oil to Europe. I mean, that is the empire argument for that war. And you can make that argument for any number of conflicts, that there's a geopolitical strategic reason for being involved in that. I look at the big picture of when we do these foreign conflicts, we're creating the impetus for mass migration from a lot of these places. And who knows what would happen with Venezuela? There could be even more of a sure, we got a secure border, but you destabilize it and a Democrat comes in, it's like you're going to get half the population of Venezuela. You know what I mean? So I think strategically, in terms of domestic and foreign, and if it's worth it and what the reasons are, because at the end of the day, I'm not going to deny that we're a global empire. And I want what's best as a person that's in this country. And going full against the empire would mean that my dollars would be worth less. So of course I'm invested to some extent. But to get to your question, I mean, I'm always open to being convinced, but I have my priorities in terms of what I can see on a daily basis. And that's why the border issue was so important. And that's why, pretty much I was a single issue voter on the border and deportations. And as an aside of that, it's the people that are creating violent chaos in opposition to that goal that seems to be the most pressing issue that I can see, when I know people and have heard people say that they justify those people dying. You know what I mean? So existentially, I don't think about like somebody like Hamas or Maduro or even China to some extent, as much as I do the things that directly affect my life, or and of course China affects my life, but that's how I prioritize it, I guess, to try to answer your question.
Yeah. Yeah, and just because you're wrong about one thing or off about one thing doesn't mean that you can't be right about other things. It was more of an existential question, and I appreciate the answer. Yeah, and I think you answered it good. And let's table it and keep going on it, because I think I think that's good. There's proper moral clash in that type of discussion, because it's like, especially in geopolitical situations like you're talking about, there's always unintended consequences to every action, and sometimes the devil is better than the devil you don't know. And so I'm not necessarily for regime change in Venezuela, but I do know that it's an extremely corrupt and messed up country. So, and I'm willing to bet that a lot of the people there, they can't vote their way out of it. So I think a lot of the people, it's kind of similar to Iran. There's a lot of people in Iran that just like want to see the regime fall. And they did not get what they wanted. Those people didn't get what they wanted. But anyway, let's table it. and I appreciate the good conversation.
Well, just as a quick follow up, if we made the argument during the Canadian trucker thing, if we were going to invade Canada, I would be a little more in favor of that, because we share a similar culture and values, and like regime change in the UK. Okay, let's talk about it. I don't want to invade the UK, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The Iranian people, they're not within the Western, like the shared reality that we have in the Western world. Obviously there are differences, but there's, like, why are we focusing on that when people are being thrown in jail in the UK for saying "I love bacon"? I'm just saying we got to prioritize the regime change we get into.
Yeah, I agree, and I think most of the audience would agree that we should liberate Canada, liberate and conquer Canada. Yes, the gong of approval.
Invade Canada, our new T-shirt from the Post Republic.
Well, hey, let's do a cuck of the week. How about that?
All right,
it's the cuck of the week. Cuck of the week. Cuck of the week.
Woo! Oh, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our flagship segment, Cuck of the Week, where we compete to find the cuckiest of the cucks. Who's got a good cuck for me? I'm a cuck connoisseur, okay? So I have a high standard. So somebody hit me.
Who's that?
Let me get one loaded.
Yeah, I have to message it to you since I can't hear my own clip. So
yep, go ahead and message it.
Private chat here.
Yep.
By the way, a follow-up from last week. Yeah, I was fooled by a troll.
Oh, it was a troll, huh?
Yeah. My bad.
Wow.
No, it's okay. We can put some trolls in there, but you just get less points.
Yeah, it's all right. I got 0. So what's less than 0?
Well, Steve, you won the meta cuck of the week.
Oh, hold on. Let me check my bank account. I'm kidding.
All right. So I got mine pulled up. If I'll go first, okay. And I got yours pulled up, Adrian, as well. Mine is shared. Okay, I'll go first.
Oh God.
Oh yeah.
Woman. I'm trans, but not a trans woman. That means I receive monumentally less hate than my trans brothers and sisters. Where even though I am trans femme, I am still seen as a man by those who would hate me otherwise. This is rooted in misogyny and by extent trans misogyny. This is one of the many benefits I'm privileged in as a white, straight, cis passing person. Because that slight hesitation that I might still be on their side saves me from a lot of violence. On the internet and on the outside, people like me are subjugated and subjected to y'all's perspectives. The ever-changing system.
If you're a white person.
Okay, I'll end it there.
Wow.
Yeah, again, I actually don't think that's parody. I think that's real. But
I think that one's real.
Yeah, no, that's definitely real. But at the same time, it's like it's reality has become parody. It's just I'm not, even though I'm not a woman, even though I'm a straight man, even though I'm a woman, even though I have look at my hairy chest, but my nose ring, but I'm a man, but I'm a woman. See, and that's why it's easier for me to be a woman because people still think I'm a man. What the fuck are we doing here?
Well, let's do mine next.
Okay, go ahead.
Same vein.
Oh gosh.
If I identified as black, would you affirm me in that and call me black?
No.
Why not?
Because you're not black.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. Okay, if I said I was a man and I said I identify as a man, would you accept that and affirm me in that?
It depends. Are you transitioning or not? Are you just like
I'm a man.
If you were like I said, if you're on testosterone and like we're in the transition, if I could visibly see that you were making a change, yeah. But like for now, it seems like you're just poking the bear or kind of trying to fight with me about it. So
No, I don't want to fight with you. I just thank you for not saying that I'm black because that would be a lie.
Oh yeah.
Just like me saying I'm a man would be a lie, no matter how much testosterone I took. Thank you for your time. I appreciate you. It's just our YouTube channel. So I think it's funny that I can become a man on the flip of a switch. I can wake up and say I'm a man. But if I wake up and say that I'm black and I deserve all the perks that black people get and all the programs that they get and everything like that, the black man says no, but the drag queen has to stick with being so progressive and so in their ideology, because this is an ideology that they believe in. He was going so far as to tell me and lie to me and say that I was black. It is absolute delusion. I am not black. I cannot be a man. I cannot be either of those things because that is not who I am. And I wish that we could just be honest with each other.
I almost brought that one.
Wait for it.
That guy is how quickly he shifted too. Like,
Yeah.
Oh, you got me. Oh no.
When you're explaining, you're losing.
Mm-hmm.
I think, well, I hate to stick up for him, but gender is a little bit different than race. And the reason why is because of all their crazy theories, their gender theories or whatever, but it kind of makes sense internally to them, I guess. You know, it's two different categories is kind of like what they would say. And they've been lied to that they can actually change. And so gender is just a construct, and depending on how much testosterone or whatever, and they've been lied to by the scientism cult. So at least I'll give them that. I'm trying. All right, Steve, you're up.
Is he a what?
I'm transgender. No. No. Yeah.
That's a good one.
Wow.
Hey, the binary strikes again. You know, dualism strikes again.
Well, they say out of the mouth of babes.
Yeah.
And that kid wasn't having it.
Mhm.
Crackhead?
You're a crackhead.
You nothing? You're a crackhead.
Oh, that's good.
All right, here is Adrian's Cuck of the Week. Oh, Mr. Polis.
Estoy practicando las canciones del Bad Bunny para el medio tiempo del Super Bowl.
Oh.
Wow.
I'm hurting. My face is permanent cringe right now. Why? He's just fighting these culture war issues that these dirty Republicans keep fighting the culture war. So he's sticking up for Bad Bunny. Poor Bad Bunny. the maggots.
Did P. Diddy get him?
Those damn maggots. They keep attacking poor oppressed minorities. Oh yeah, a millionaire, like famous, universally beloved musician.
Slow down.
Universally.
Well, I got to give my vote to Steve on that one.
Yeah, same.
Steve.
That one trio of trans clips we had on Cuck of the Week.
Good work, dude. Good work.
Oh, hold on, Steve.
Whoa. Perfect.
Blown away.
All right.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think one thing is for sure. We can disagree about geopolitics. We can disagree about strategy, grand strategy. We can disagree on threat levels, dangers, priorities, social safety nets. We can disagree on that stuff. But one thing is for sure, and that is the law of non-contradiction. It's the binary to the universe. Either something is true or it is false, and it cannot be both true and false at the same time and in the same sense. And so with that, I think we should base our empire based off of actual logic, not the freaky rationalism of the left. Anyway, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, follow all these guys, and we'll see you next Wednesday. Thanks again.